Hi Dominic, hi Stefan, you're very welcome to Capricorn TV today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to be in Germany, in your home country.
Yes, let's speak German now.
Let's speak German, yes.
I'll have to get that translated, but thank you very much, guys. I'm here at the Capricorn part. You know, you've been on Capricorn Radio, Dominic. Stefan, first time to meet you. We're here today to talk about the whole chaos scandal, or as we call it, myself and Robert, the cartouche affair. But before we get into any of that, please tell the audience who aren't familiar, Dominic and Stefan, probably first you, Dominic, your name, your academic background.
Yes, my name is Dr. Dominik Görlitz. I am a PhD experimental archaeologist and geobotanist, as I did my PhD about tobacco and cocaine findings in Egyptian mummies, as well as also raft expeditions across the seven seas to prove that the early societies were much more maneuverable, and the migration has played a major role in the history of ancient societies.
In the footsteps of Thor Heyerdahl.
Thor Heyerdahl. As Thor Heyerdahl was a very brave friend of mine, and I really appreciated that I got to know him for about 8 to 10 years.
Wow, wonderful.
And I really appreciate this time being with him together. And yes, it's a little bit also of my legacy now to continue his legacy. And Thor Heyerdahl has imagination, the 35% of the world population, but not the scientists. The scientists are still believing that he's wrong in his interpretations and his major conclusions. But Thor Heyerdahl maybe is the inventor of the modern internet, what we call wireless LAN.
Wow.
Because what he has predicted already 70, 80 years ago is that the invisible currents and wind systems have already connected people.
Wow.
What the internet is doing today. And
Sure.
and that's is a little bit also my opportunity and challenge to demonstrate that early societies were much more advanced as modern scholars believe. And this also leads us to the Cheops project, because it's exactly the continuation what I did with Abora 1, 2, 3. And so in 2012 I got to know Stefan, and now Stefan explains us who he is.
Please, Stefan.
Yes, my name is Stefan Erdmann from Germany. I'm a researcher and book writer. I research in Egypt since 1990. First time
Wow.
I've been there in Egypt, and especially the Great Pyramid, the Cheops Pyramid. And yes, I write 5, 6 books. And 2006, 2007, we produce a movie, the Cheops Enigma. And in this movie, we talk about the Herodot channel. This is a theory of an Austrian researcher, Mr. Hermann Waldhauser. And he said in the early 17th, that the Cheops Pyramid was something like a, wie sagt man, Wasserhebeanlage in
A water pump.
A water pump, yes,
Yes,
a water
yes.
pump. And I investigate this theory, and what I found out was that the channel, the Herodot channel, exists, and over a long time water was coming from the Nile over the channel in the underground chamber of the Great Pyramid.
Wow. Germany has a... Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
No, Germany has a long tradition of researching in Egypt.
Yes.
You guys always been interested in Egypt since boys, since kids?
Yes, actually, when I was a child, I was excited in Thor Heyerdahl, and of course in the ancient Egyptian societies. And when I did my first 1 and 2 Abora expeditions, Abora 2 started in Egypt in 2002, and we sailed in a large triangle from Alexandria to Beirut in Lebanon. From there we sailed over to Cyprus and returned back to Alexandria, and it was also in continuation to what Thor did, that the ancient Egyptians and also other advanced cultures in the Mediterranean area must have had a large impact also to neighbor regions and neighbor societies. And so the idea was very close what Stefan did in his years before that. The pyramids from Egypt, in accordance to my opinion, were a speciality of Egypt, because the smooth pyramids actually you find only in Egypt, not in Mesopotamia, and also not in Mesoamerica.
Oh, yeah.
This means this is a little bit different. But on the other hand, when Stefan explained me about his discovery, what he found in 2006, that on 9 large granite beams, on 2 clearly located positions, he has already discovered black areas, which we call black tongues, looks like a tongue. And these areas are so special. And for me, being an historian advanced in technical improvements or technical discoveries, it was for sure from the very first moment when we both got to know us, it must have had a technical background, whatever it is.
Sure. I've seen photos today with Robert Boval and his research, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I guess we'll kind of talk about the Cheops scandal, the fiasco, political background to the whole thing. Personally, from my own, I'm not Egyptian, but I see this as private research, which was a really good idea. Because I don't know why the Egyptologists didn't think of doing this analysis that you guys wanted. So perhaps tell us what the intent was, in your own words, what you were trying to do, and then tell us maybe what happened and what turned out to be.
It's very easy to explain. The King's Chamber is almost in the middle of the Great Pyramid in Giza. And the King's Chamber has not only these air shafts, whatever it means, air shafts, but it has also this large first layer of granite beams, which provides the so-called relief chambers, which are above the King's Chamber.
Sure.
And what Stefan has discovered already in 2006 is the fact, as I already explained, that each of these beams, we have 9 beams in the first level, have these special marks which have a black patina. It's very dark patina, and it was our initial hypothesis to investigate this patina in order to get in response what is the chemical nature of this layer. And in the beginning, when Stefan showed me his pictures, which he made in 2006, it was not an HD drawing as a picture. The resolution was not super good. We had no idea, and I have asked many experts in Italy and Germany, what might it be? What could it be? And they gave us advices, 100 advices, how we can get these substances. And we decided to follow of advices of PhD experts from Dresden and from Turin, German and Italian Egyptologists, and they recommended us to use an alcoholic liquid to solve the substance from the ceiling of the granite beams.
Wow.
This was our initial hypothesis.
Yes.
And Stefan provided the permission in accordance to what he did in 2006 and 2007. And as Robert Boval has already demonstrated in his plots, that the first permit what Stefan got in 2006 was even addressed to Professor Dr. Sai Havas.
Sure.
And Havas even signed the permit of 2006.
Yeah.
And that is why Stefan believed also in 2006, 2007, and later, also in 2013, that what he has done in his private research before was full approved by the Egyptian authorities.
It was the same procedure as 2006.
And which is also a very remarkable fact, is a circumstance in 2013 especially, but also in his former research activities, he was never the owner of this permit. It was his tour operator who got this permission, this contract between him and the Supreme Consulate of Antiquity. And this means Stefan was never the responsible party in this private activities. It was the tour operator in cooperation with the Supreme Consulate.
And this is the way they do business in Egypt. This is the routine. It's kind of official, not really official, and all the paperwork. It's not like it is in Europe.
As when we got to know us in 2012 in Dresden, I asked Stefan, how is it possible that you as a private person can do such a fantastic work in Egypt? He said, Dominic, listen, I did it always in full, under full approval of the Supreme Consulate. I met all these general managers. I met Sai Havas. I met many important officials from the higher levels. And nobody has ever complained. Nobody has ever insisted what we did. If somebody would have said, no, Mr. Erdmann, this is not possible, I would never have done, but as you always...
It was possible. We know it from 2006, 2007, and after that we produced a film, The Chaos Enigma, and we published a book.
In German as well as also in English.
Fast forward to Zahi Hawass today, I think the timing of what happened with the whole cartouche affair, chaos scandal, Zahi Hawass just really needed something like that scandal he created the whole thing basically. I think
to reinstall himself, most probably.
Yeah. Would you look back and would you still have done what you do today had you known the outcome or result?
It's a
tough question.
It's a hard question because for me, being a scientist who wanted to do some further academic work at the university, it really hurt me what has happened. Also, my university was very angry about me, and I got a lot of critics from America, from all over the world. Why you have participated with such a nasty bad guy? and I was sorry, everything was fine. It was exactly as Stefan predicted me before we went down to Egypt. We came to the Giza plateau. We were welcomed by 2 police officers. Everything was fine. She handed us over in the hands of 2 Egyptologists, they were inspectors, but they worked in reality for being Egyptologists for the archaeological department. Stefan even met one of these guys 4 days before I even came to Egypt. He has explained everything to one of these.
We discussed it 2 days before with one of the inspectors. And with dem Reiseleiter, mit dem
tour operator,
with the tour operator, and they know what we want to do. And I repeat it, we do it in the same procedure 2006. We had a big film team. We were inside. We make the film, Chaos Enigma, and we took some samples in the Cheops pyramid. The inspectors saw that nothing was secret. We have cameras in all the chambers where we had been. So we don't guess that we do something illegal.
Sure.
Not 2006 and not 2013. If we had done it 2006, we would never come back, because we know if we enter Egypt, we were arrested.
The prison.
Yeah, we were arrested, you know.
Tell me with the microscopic samples of red ochre, did we have tests on that? Did we know?
Also, our main idea was not to investigate these red ochre paintings.
Sure.
To understand, our initial hypothesis was that most probably these black remains were the remains of torches, whatever, organic carbon remains.
Yeah.
And when I climbed up first time, and I saw this black patina, first time very close, 30 centimeters away from my eyes, and I had my headlamp, and I had a second lamp, etc., and many lamps were also positioned in the king's chamber. I realized this is completely different from what we expected. This was the major discovery the second major discovery in my life. I said, wow, that's definitely not what modern Egyptologists would believe what it might be. And I could say this metallic shining on the ceiling. And at the moment, I do a large research project with the Library of Congress in Washington, with a technical university in Dresden, about antique cartographers. And I read so much about Eratosthenes and Plinius and Thales from Milet and Aristoteles and they knew exactly what magnetite is.
Yeah.
And especially Thales from Milet describes wonderful how this black grayish metallic shining is coming if you have magnetite. Plinius II explains how magnetite is a magical material, and he describes the color. And when I saw this on the ceiling, I knew immediately what I see in my eyes, but I didn't tell it in the beginning, because not to
wait for the signs.
Yeah, wait for the testings. But my initial hypothesis collapsed down, and I said, let's put this alcohol liquid to garbage. We need another testing method. And I had when I have been studied biology, I also had as a second teaching lesson geology. And I knew we had testings in the university how to get samples, and we call it in scientific language flaking.
Flaking, yes, flaking.
With tiny sigil. And we did never test the granite, and we never took granite samples. That's a complete lie. We have taken nano-sized samples, not more than a few milligrams.
That's all you need.
Of this black powder. One cough in the glass, everything is disappeared.
We don't damage the stone of the ceiling.
We just tested this few hundred milligrams of this black patina. And when I did this, I knew already in the beginning it has a metallic origin. And when we were back in Germany, I took a magnet. We could even see how the particles, not all, because a little bit was also, of course, a little bit granite, but when I was a little bit very skilled and I got this few tiny milligrams, we could even move the samples in the magnetic field.
Wow.
Long before it came to the laboratory, we could already testify that it is what I believed in the beginning.
Like Robert Bohal says, this is an advancement. This is previously unknown use of metal inside the pyramid.
Yeah. And we discuss this almost every day. For me, the most important observation is that this thin patina, which is on the ceiling, even goes under the wall. And this is, for me,
interesting.
Being a PhD scientist, this can only mean this substance came to the ceiling either during the construction phase, when they put the stone into this position, or even earlier. We do not agree in any place, but this is pure science. For me, as I have investigated in the last 2 years, or I have read a lot of books about architecture, etc. And for me, it's very obvious that it was part of a lifting technology, what the ancients used to lift up the stones.
Seem to be logical, of course, but
sure.
We discuss it.
Yeah.
That's the way we make scientists to find out, to discuss.
Why do you think Egyptology never took these samples? Why do you think Egyptology doesn't do what you guys do?
Das habe ich nicht verstanden.
I have no answer to your questions, but what I can tell you, what Stefan explained me when we got to know us very first time, is he even went to Egyptologists. At first German ones, later to Egyptian ones, and he told him, Mr. Erdmann, you should not invest your money in such cases. It's not necessary.
Not interested. You just weren't interested.
Nobody cares about this. Forget about this. And this is what I can tell for me. For me, as an experimental archaeologist, I understood immediately when Stefan showed me the pictures, what each 9 stones have these 2 patterns, symmetrically in size, symmetrically in the shape, symmetrically almost in the color, although they have not the same color, but depends on the erosion pattern. But it was for sure, it must have had a certain meaning for the making of the pyramids.
Together we have 18 of these times.
18 times.
Wow.
And not only one.
Wow.
And many critics in the media as well as in the Egyptology play the act. We are totally blueprint in the air. What we are postulating is completely mad. There's absolutely no idea that people in the 4th dynasty even used iron as a material. But this is a complete lie. We have 2 different findings. One was made by Professor Reisner in 1908 at the Mycerinus pyramid. He found iron oxide outside of the the Valley Temple. And the second super important iron finding was made during the Weiss expedition in 1833, not by Howard Weiss. It was made by G.R. Hill, a companion of Weiss. And he discovered an iron plate. It was 4 meters deep in the southern air shaft. And with a lot of gunpowder, he destroyed 6 stones. And then he was able with a hook to take it out within the building. But although Hill has carefully documented how and where he found this iron piece, majority of Egyptologists are doubting this finding. Also, Flinders Petrie confirmed the authenticity of this finding. Also, two independent metallurgical investigation analyses could confirm the authenticity of this primitive melted iron piece. And this is so important for modern science. Many people have a completely wrong understanding how modern science has to work. It's not the search for the ultimate evidence. That's a complete lie or myth. Modern science is asking deeper questions to bring it in relevance to other findings. And what Hill has found in 1837 and what an English team has investigated in 1989 about this iron plate is it was produced in a low temperature method as wrought iron.
Wow.
In a simple way. And the measurements what they made about 30 years ago are 100% in accordance to our measurement made afterwards in our laboratory in Germany. And this is what modern science means. Bring it in relevance to other investigations. And this is what I have to criticize to my colleagues in Egyptology.
Wow.
We have already several other indications
Of
iron. And they cannot blame it. It's complete invention, it's fantasy. You are charlatans, you know this from Robert. We're always criticizing these people. And makes me, being a PhD scientist, it's a shame for me because I'm such an university PhD scientist who is trying to bring light in such unsolved mysteries. And we have so much knowledge, but we don't use it.
In a way, if you accept the present dating of the pyramid, this puts the Iron Age back at least that far, which is a paradigm change in itself.
It is.
Perhaps the Egyptologists are also scared with the red ochre paint that this might challenge Weiss's authenticity. There's talk about whether they're actually real. Did he draw these pictures himself? And I think they're personally scared. Maybe they're scared with the red ochre samples as well, for what it might reveal.
But being frank, it was really maybe the major nasty accusations at all. That people used this investigations from Stefan and me to accuse us. We wanted to redate the pyramid. We wanted to prove that King Solomon has made it, or it was a remain of the Atlantis society.
This is not important. Important is
the signs of the black.
Yes.
Patina.
And the Egyptologists, what they do is they can go into the king's chamber and they can see it. And they can investigate it.
Every time.
And they can't deny it anymore.
No. And because we have so much, it's multi-channel proof what we made.
Yeah.
Visible, also with the testings, but also with the way how we have documented it with this magnetic field tests. And everybody who doesn't believe us, he just can repeat it. And we have a nice definition in science. It's an experiment is an always repeatable event. Of course, if we are wrong, please disprove us. Go there, take the samples and investigate them.
Wonderful. Well, are we going to see the publication of these results soon?
Yes, we are writing the book now. It will be published in the next couple of months.
2-3 months.
Wow.
Hopefully latest time will be when we are arranging this international conference with worldwide known experts and Robert Boval, Professor David Troll. Stefan is now world famous. And also I. And so we are going to invite Graham Hancock also to participate in this conference. But even more important is not being the super monkey on the top of the pyramid. That's not the goal. Our goal is to invite people, please have a look. I appreciate all critics, what I can get. Logical critics, please correct me if we are wrong. No problem. And this is what we have to provide to the world.
Well, guys, if you just give us out your websites before we go, but that's a wonderful session. That's so interesting news, and it's great. It's an advancement, as we say. But please give us out your websites before we wrap up.
Also, my website is abora.eu.
www.erdmann-forschung.de
Or just Google Cheops project.
Yes.
That's enough.
Amazing.
Stefan Erdmann or Dominic Görlitz.
Wonderful, guys. I really thank you for your time today. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you as well.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Societies.
In the footsteps of Thor Heyerdahl.
Thor Heyerdahl. As a Thor Heyerdahl was a very brave friend of mine, and I really appreciated that I got to know him for about 8 to 10 years.
Wow, wonderful.
And I really appreciate this time being with him together. And yes, it's a little bit also of my legacy now to continue his legacy. And Thor Heyerdahl has imagination, so 35% of the world population, but not the scientists. The scientists are still believing that he's wrong.
But before we get into any of that, please tell the audience who aren't familiar, Dominic and Stefan, probably first you, Dominic, your name, your academic background.
Yes, my name is Dr. Dominic Görlitz. I am a PhD experimental archaeologist and geobotanist, as I did my PhD about tobacco and cocaine findings in Egyptian mummies, as well as also raft expeditions across the seven seas to prove that the early societies were much more maneuverable, and the migration has played a major role in the history of ancient society. Because it's exactly the continuation what I did with Abora 1, 2, 3. And so in 2012 I got to know Stefan, and now Stefan explains us who he is.
Please, Stefan.
Yes, my name is Stefan Erdmann from Germany. I'm a researcher and book writer. I research in Egypt since 1990. First time I've been there in Egypt, and especially the Great Pyramid, the Cheops Pyramid. And yes, I write 5, 6 books. And 2006, 2007, the
Hi, Dominic. Hi, Stefan. You're very welcome to Capricorn TV today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to be in Germany, in your home country.
Yes, let's speak German now.
Let's speak German, yes.
I'll have to get that translated, but thank you very much, guys. And here's the Capricorn part. You know, you've been on Capricorn Radio, Dominic. Stefan, first time to meet you. We're here today to talk about the whole Cheops scandal, or as we call it, myself and Robert, the cartouche affair.
His interpretations and his major conclusions. But Thor Heyerdahl maybe is the inventor of the modern internet, what we call wireless LAN.
Wow.
Because what he has predicted already 70, 80 years ago is that the invisible currents and wind systems have already connected people.
Wow.
What the internet is doing today. And,
Sure.
and that's is a little bit also my opportunity and challenge to demonstrate that early societies were much more advanced as modern scholars believe. And this also leads us to the Cheops project.